Do people even read your case studies? I ask myself this question all the time. But having a case study is essential. You all know this, don't you? But the chances of your case study being read is slim. How slim, you ask? It's 0.00166666667. And that's not a random number. The average number of people applying to a design role is around 200 plus. Now multiply that by 3, which is usually the number of case studies you're supposed to have in your portfolio. You'll end up getting a number looking at which you'll feel like never starting writing a case study again. So let's forget that you're applying for a job. You still need to write a case study because that's the most common way of showing your proof of work. But there are so many case studies being written each day that I don't know if anybody will ever read yours. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to write the most mind-blowing case study of all time. The way to do it is, I don't know yet. You see, there's a slight problem. I myself haven't figured it out yet. To be honest, case study was not something that landed me this job. But I want to start putting out my work out there to show that this is my proof of work. So I have to learn this. And the main reason I started this channel was to share the learnings that I get. So it's time for me to go to a case study master and ask him for the ultimate guidance on how to write a case study. So who's this master, you ask? This master hasn't read 1 or 2 case studies. He has read thousands of them, given feedbacks on even more. And he has written some of the smoothest case studies I've ever read. And he is
Sagar, a product designer at Ticket Tape. In his own words,
so I'm working as a product designer right now. It's been 2.5 years. I previously worked at Topper for 1.5 years, built stuff for EdTech, and now it's almost been a year now. I'm working at Ticket Tape, building into fintech, loving it, loving every day, learning new things.
Apart from working at Ticket Tape, Sagar is also an alumnus of 10K Designers Cohort, a course through which he has mentored hundreds of designers. This makes him the ideal person for me to learn from. See, this video is a little longer than what most people can tolerate, but that's mainly because I wanted to learn everything possible regarding case studies. So if you are curious like me, then take notes and summarize it down in the comments below. This will help you and everybody else. And watch out for the tips that come up in the last second answer. You're gonna love that. I've timestamped the questions along with the tips, so feel free to skip. With that said, let's get started. So first of all, since we are talking about case study, what does a case study actually mean to you? In a very layman terms.
So only one word, right? Only one word for a case study. It's a good story, I would say. It's a story that everyone can understand, and it's not very technical because a case study, can be read by everyone, can be understood by everyone very easily. I think that's a very good case study. So it's good storytelling, I would say.
Is there anything that you do before you start writing your case studies? You search for inspirations or anything like that?
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. Previously, when I just started out in UI UX designing, writing my initial case studies was very tough. I had no idea how to write a case study, how to frame a case study, how to publish a case study, right? And what all things should I include in a case study. So I did research a lot. What things should I include it here? How should I actually explain what I've gone through in a case study. And that actually helped me retrospect that while I was working on a problem statement, I did not actually document my thought processes, design decisions throughout the project, and that becomes super critical. So when you're working on a problem statement, right, so it's very important to actually document these minute details, these minute turns that you have taken in between the design process. You went ahead with certain design decisions, you knocked off the others, right? So it has become very important that you should know all of these nuances while you were doing your project, right? And that actually helps you when you write a case study, because then what things did you went through, what things did you thought of maybe doing it later, right? What were the technical constraints that you were encountered with while you were working on the project, right? So my first case study was around a freelance project that I did, right? And that whole template of the case study was kind of copied from 3 or 4 good case studies that I read, And maybe they talk about the problem statement first, then they talk about the iterations, then they show you the visuals, and then they conclude the case study, right? But that was a very templatized version of a case study. But right now, when I write a case study, I don't write it like that. I mean, it's my story to tell, it's my process to tell. There's no template to write a case study. It should be a good story. It should be very clear, very concise. It should engage the users, and yes, it should not be very boring. So, I mean, those are the things that I keep in mind right now, when I write a case study.
Got it. Actually, you kind of answered my next question, which should have been how and where do you document these design decisions? I think I got the answer for how. Would like to get to know if where do you document these case studies? Is there like a go-to place that you keep all this? And do you like take screenshots like while you're doing your design decision itself, or like you come back to it later and then you put everything into one place?
I think when I'm designing or working on a problem statement, I'm documenting these design decisions in Figma itself only. That like for example, I have iterated on maybe say a small UI element like in 3 or 4 ways. Now I'm just kind of documenting that in this iteration I did that, in this I did this, in next one I did that, right? So things like that. And then when we discuss those iterations with PMs, with other stakeholders, right? Then which one we went ahead with and why.
Okay. I mean, I thought actually I would have to do it in some document, note-taking app like Notion or something like that. But that's actually good that you told you do it in Figma itself. It makes it much more easier to understand later, I feel.
It is. But, when I write my first draft, I actually do it in Notion only. So I'm just kind of, collecting all of these iterations, all of these design decisions documented in Figma and just copying them into Notion for a very first rough draft.
If, like the way you told, right? When I write my case studies, also I make sure that I write a story first. I don't care about the structure, and then after I'm done with what story I need to tell, I actually put it into a structure. So, do you do this as well, or I want to know like what's your approach on writing case studies? Like first, do you make structures and then try to fit everything, or do you like write a story like how I do and then put it into a structure?
Again, my previous case studies before working as a full-time employee back at Topper, now at Ticker Tape. So before that, my case studies were kind of very detailed. They were talking about my design process in depth, like how I did my research, how I did my iterations. I researched all of these apps, I took all of these inspirations, so things like that. And that brings me to the point that it actually depends how you write a case study, depending upon what stage are you at. Like for example, if you're a newbie, you're learning UI UX designing. Now you're writing a very initial case studies, like first or second case study to apply for a full-time role or to get an internship, right? At that point of time, it becomes very important that in your case study you describe your process in detail, right? Because companies are looking out for people or interns who are very well versed about the design process. Even if they are not so good at visuals, that can be learned on the go, that can be learned on the job, right? But yes, they are looking for people who have a very clear design process and have a very they are clear about what they are doing, right? But currently, I recently wrote a case study about the newest feature that we launched at Ticker Tape, that is scorecard. For that, I mean, I don't have to go to the detailed design process. Like I researched all of these stuff because right now it's safe to assume that yes, I am very well versed with the design process. Now it's more important for me to show the impact, for me to show the output what I made and how it impacted the users, right? And how it solved the problem that our customers were facing, right? So it depends on what stage are you at. So in that way you can frame your case studies.
Like the way you have written the case study, I actually thought you would have went in a similar approach to mine, where you would have written a story first and then you would have put it into structures. But I think everybody has a different process and it keeps evolving. So it was like kind of good to hear yours.
Currently, what my thought process was, what was the problem we are trying to solve? Who are we solving it for? Right? Then briefly, I was getting into the design process, but majorly I was focusing on the output, what I made. Because that is what actually readers or who will read the case study, they are more interested in. कि आपने बनाया क्या है boss? What have you made, right? So that makes sense. Show the output first, and then also talk about the impact parallelly.
Got it.
That keeps the readers engaged in the case study throughout the end.
throughout the end. But would you tell that you focus on each section equally, or do you focus on like the top part? Because I think I do that. It's similar to how I use see the YouTube also, right? The starting part is where the main part is. And I also think the same case is with case studies. In all the case studies that I usually see from people who send it to me, I feel like my most focus is on the top part. So do you think that you give equal time to the top part and the bottom part, or is how does it work? Like, where do you think you give the main focus on? Which part of the case study? Is it the solution, or is it like
That's
the top
a
part where
that's a very good question. So have you heard of this funnel called AARRR? So you grab the
no?
user's attention first. So in our case, it's readers, right? People who read this case study on Medium, through Twitter links or LinkedIn, right? So initially you catch that attention through a very concise, heading that actually, catches the attention, and a very strong visual, right? So yes, I give a lot of importance, how I start my case study, because if a start is good, then they're more likely to read it, along the way.
Along. Correct. I think it's
Yes,
the same way with case studies or even like these YouTube videos.
yes.
And you are quite a visual god. So wanted to know at which part of you writing your case study do you actually start making it pretty. As far as I know, when you start designing yours, you should make sure it's pretty from the starting. But when you're writing
Yes,
your case study, do
it
you
should be.
focus on the aesthetics first, or do you do it at a later stage?
I'm actually, while I'm writing, and iterating on some, subheadings, headings on, how I break my case study. At that point of time, I'm actually also figuring that out in the back of my head, that what visual should I place it here? What kind of visual can I use here? Should it be a normal screenshot? Should it be a very well, mock-up inside a, phone mock-up or a laptop mock-up, or maybe a GIF or an animated, prototype, right? So it's kind of parallel that I'm, writing as well, and also thinking of, these visuals. But yes, I do spend a lot of time, around, designing assets for my case study.
Just to summarize it a little, you kind of do it from the beginning itself, and you like it that way.
Yes, I do it from the beginning. Yes, I like it that way.
Got it.
I don't do it at the end. I'm doing it parallelly.
Parallelly, nice. Because the way I approach it is I actually try to push it to the end, because I want the story to be there first. Because if I start making things look pretty, I feel like I'll get distracted and not put my time into getting the story right first. So yeah, I think like I told you, even in your design approach, you do the same thing where you make sure that in the starting itself, it's quite good. Now, let's say you made your case studies pretty. At which point do you start taking feedback, like from others? I know you are a mentor and you give a lot of feedback to others, but you will also have your mentors or people who you reach out to get feedback, right?
For sure, for sure. It's not about a mentor. I mean, everyone in the design field needs feedback from the peers itself, right? So
Would say not even design field, everybody needs mentoring, like feedback in all kinds
everybody,
of.
everybody,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, everybody. Even scientists, right? When they write a research paper, they take peer feedbacks, right?
Correct.
So it's kind of similar, I would say. It's a
Yeah,
case
yeah.
study for, it's a research paper that we have to publish, right? So the thing is that, yes, when my case study is kind of ready, that I'm happy with, for example, it looks nice, it's telling the right story, what I had in my head, right? At that point of time, I actually send my case study draft link to, like, 4 or 5 of my friends, or, who are designers and even non-designers. So I've done that. I did that for my recent case study. I actually sent it to, 2 of my friends who are not designers. So, it actually helps a lot to, understand their
Their
perspective,
perspective.
because, how they read it. Because yes, if they're able to understand it, everyone can understand it.
Same. Even I do this. I
So
send it out to like a general audience just to get to know how a
yeah,
layman would understood if they were reading this case
yes,
study. Because
yes,
at the end of the day,
yes.
we are just not making it for designers as well, right? We are making it for the larger audience as well. See, as a perfectionist of sorts, I have this mentality that there is always something to tweak. So how do I know like when to put a full stop to a case study? Because a case study can be written in a day, a case study can be written in a year. So how do you know when to put a full stop?
See, you never know that. Even I didn't know, didn't
What's
know
your
that,
what's your
it's
process? Like,
ready.
what's your mentality?
I think if it's good enough, it should go out.
Okay,
And I
what's a
iterate on,
good
on
enough
it.
test? What's a good enough test?
Again, so it depends, I mean, some it's like subjective, I would say. Like for
Hmm.
example, you might like something like visually.
Hmm.
I could say that, okay, maybe that is okay-ish. It's not that
Hmm.
good, but
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
find something very interesting, right?
Hmm.
Something else
Hmm.
very interesting.
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
say it's similar. If it's solving your major use case, that's that you're able to explain your process, you're able to
Hmm.
show the outcome, you're
Hmm.
able to articulate your design decisions.
Hmm.
I think that is good enough, I would say, to go out and for the readers out in the world.
Nice. I actually, the way I approach it is I keep deadlines. Otherwise, I feel like I'll keep going on forever. When I start my
That's a
case study,
that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, because when I start my case study, I know that I need to push it out by now. I mean, push it out by this time. Otherwise, I'll keep iterating it. So for that usually works for me. And even with these videos, for example, I've told myself I'll make a video a week. So by the end of the week, if I don't have anything, if it's not good enough, like my previous video, I think I'll still push it out because I know that I can work on the next video. This project is done. I can go on the next project kind of stuff. That's my
Agreed.
mentality
Agreed.
at least.
And there's always feedback coming in, right? Like
Hmm.
even if
Hmm.
I pushed this case study out recently, I
Hmm.
got some feedback. I'll implement that feedback in my upcoming case studies, right? So
Hmm.
that keeps on happening.
Got it. And let's say you've done with your case study, like you've written, it's pretty now. I have gotten feedback as well. Now, what do you do next? Like you have your case study ready. So what do you do next? Like how do you market it or like sell it to others? I wanted this answer like from two perspectives. One, I think is like if I was a fresher or I was looking for new opportunities, like I was using these case studies to show it to somebody else in specific, or like in our case, like in you since you just published a case study which was not really catering to anyone, I think, and you just pushed it out because you want to show that this is my proof of work, this is what I've done, so you want to
Yes.
and educate the larger audience. So
Yes.
what do you do, like how do you market it or sell it?
Um, I see. So I'm most active on Twitter,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Even before publishing my case study,
Hmm.
I sort of, went ahead on Twitter and shared a mock-up of my case study
Yeah,
on
the
of the
video.
feature that I built.
Yeah.
Right, the video.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a, I think, 10-second video.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, it was a kind of 3D mock-up that was coming out, scrolling in, right?
Ha. Ha.
And it was just to create hype.
Ha.
So it did help me, to create that hype.
Hmm.
People interacted with that a lot.
Hmm.
They were kind of very excited to, see what was upcoming.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
had no idea.
Hmm.
It was so much fun.
Hmm.
So when I published my case study, yes, those people were kind of, already excited that, yes,
Hmm.
maybe you have designed this and it looks super amazing. So yes,
This was
I
like a
got that hype.
trailer of sorts, right?
Yes, it was.
I mean, I don't personally don't like trailers now because I feel like they show too much of the movies. But in your case, you showed exactly what was needed. It was so good and it was so short also. Like, I know there's fire content coming out, but I don't know what exactly
Yes,
it is. So yeah, that's
yes,
good.
yes.
And now, so wait, this is actually I would think I would say this is for a person who's just putting out stuff who are not really looking for opportunities, right? But if you're looking for opportunities, what would you do? Like, let's say you were looking for a job right now. In that case, what would you do? I don't think this works, right? Because in this case, you don't have the eyeballs that you want to target. So in that case, what do you do? Like,
Mm-hmm,
if you want specifically to target particular eyeballs, do you like cold mail
mm-hmm,
them or do you do anything else, or is there any approach you or system that you follow?
mm-hmm. I think cold emailing or cold DMing on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
even on Twitter,
Hmm.
helps a lot.
Hmm. Hmm.
And especially, having peers, having these mentors.
Hmm.
Actually, it all comes down to the fact that, how active are you on social media?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because, even if you're an intern or even if you're just kind of started into, learning UI UX,
Hmm.
still, if you're active on Twitter, on LinkedIn and posting stuff that you're interested in,
Hmm.
posting stuff that you're, learning every day,
Hmm.
interacting with, these head of designs, lead designers in big companies,
Hmm.
you kind of have eyes on you that yes, maybe I've seen this guy or girl
Hmm.
on somewhere on the internet, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that helps. And yes, cold DMing, cold emailing along with a Loom video, maybe that
Hmm. Hmm.
this is me, I've worked on this case study, I'm working, I'm kind of very interested in working with your company,
Huh.
you can have a look at my case study, right? So this is sort of a very personalized email with a Loom video or maybe a case study link, like helps a lot.
Actually, that's a great idea, and I think the more creative that Loom video would be, even more better. But this point regarding you told being active on social media, right?
Again, this is a hack that I did for my interview at Topper
Hmm.
when I was applying for Topper.
Hmm.
So I emailed this, head of design at Topper, Angad,
Hmm.
with a Loom video.
Hmm.
So in that Loom video, I had my camera on.
Hmm.
I opened Topper's website
Hmm.
and I was talking about myself, and then again I was talking about them as well. That I love Topper's design. I know you have a lot of products. I want to work at all of these products. So yeah,
Hmm.
it
Nice.
ends.
I mean, I didn't know you did this. This is damn good. So, I mean, I can actually make one more video out of how you approach this entire like go to a company kind of thing. Because even I did the same for ticket tape. That personalization works really well. Like you
Yes,
personalizing it for the specific company works really well.
yes.
See, I use Behance as my presentation of stores. Like I make two kinds of case studies. One is a presentation of stores, and one is a more detailed version. And I give this TLDR kind of version on Behance for the general audience, and then a detailed approach if they want to read the entire thing. And I do this on Substack. But I know that you do it on Medium. Any reason for choosing Medium over the other things, like a website of yours? And I know that you get them published in Medium, like Medium blogs. So how do you do that?
Got it. Um, there was no major reason to go ahead with Medium because I heard that maybe Behance has some limitations. You cannot add a lot of text.
A lot of
It's more
limitations.
visual, right? Whereas Medium, it gave me that freedom to play with visuals and text equally, right? So that was the first approach. I mean, it was very easy for me as well to write a case study. You just have to go there, write a story, just publish it, right? And so there was no much reason. But again, now when I actually search something on Google, I see very oftenly that Medium results come out on kind of very top,
Correct.
right? So I think it also gives you very organic growth if you grow really well, if you're posting stuff regularly. So that would help in a long term, I would say. And secondly, about right, publishing to publications, right? So again, it gives you a lot of traction because some publications like UX Planet, Prototyper, Music, Music Planet, and all of these. So they have dedicated audience and followers who are into that domain, for which you're writing for, right? So that kind of actually helps, to push your case study or what I've written to those type of audience, right? So there's no much process to it. I think everyone can publish to these publications. So you just have to write them an email first, right? And they'll actually add you as a writer for their publication. And then going forward, you don't have to actually write an email to them for every publish that you want to do. You just have to actually go to Medium only and just click on add to publication, and you'll get an option to add to publication for that particular publisher.
Oh,
So it's pretty easy, I would say. Yeah.
nice. And actually, Medium's SEO is super good because most of the time when
It
you
is
search on
super
Google,
good.
it comes
Yes.
in the top three itself. That's nice. And like I told, you have this experience of mentoring so many people and also like guiding them, right? And taking feedbacks, giving feedbacks for these folks. You must have like read hundreds of case studies, if not thousands. So, what would be like the top two mistakes that you see in these case studies, like the most common things?
Hmm. I actually have to think about that.
Yeah, take it, no issues.
Hmm. Like two most common things that I have seen. Um, I mean, a lot of people, just write big paragraphs. They don't break their case study into headings, subheadings, and then bullet points, right? I mean, don't write huge paragraphs. Break them into bullet points, some pointers, right? Add some supporting visuals. Don't make it very text heavy. The only word I would say is make it very scannable.
Scannable.
So scannable. So most of the case studies that I've read from beginners are not very scannable. So you have to actually read very intentfully that you don't know where to have a break, and then where subheadings and stuff like that. One is that, and secondly again, towards the end, always mention, what were your learnings from that case study
From
or
case
that
study.
project.
Hmm.
Most of the people actually miss out on that as well.
Hmm.
They don't, mention what were the outcomes
Hmm.
and also what are the next steps. Now that you have, designed this,
Hmm.
are there some things that can be improved which you know of?
Hmm.
It's very important, right?
Hmm.
Because shipping a feature, designing a feature is not the end.
Hmm.
It is just the start,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Then the feedback comes, then you iterate on that again, then you ship out the things again, right?
Hmm.
So constantly, having that headspace in your mind that yes, this can be improved,
Hmm.
and what things can be improved, being aware of that as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, documenting them towards the end helps a lot. Like it helps others feel that yes, this person knows what they have done. They also know that didn't went well,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they are willing to work on that. If they had more time.
Hmm. That learning mentality should always be there.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Actually, you brought up a point that I wanted to ask you. So, let's say you're going
Mhm.
through all these case studies. Do you scan
Mhm.
or do you read them actually?
Uh,
I mean,
I scan most of them.
you can be honest. I don't think anybody is judging because most
I
people would be the
scan.
same.
I scan.
Hmm.
I scan most of them. If they obviously if they have pretty visuals along the way, it helps me.
Helps.
Maybe they have done some annotations in the
Hmm. Hmm.
assets that they have added,
Hmm.
like this is this, this is that, right?
Hmm.
So that sort of helps that to understand what they have designed
Hmm. Hmm.
in a fraction of a second, right?
Correct.
So you don't have to read much.
Correct.
And again, I think while I'm scanning a case study, I read the first part, the hero section, and the problem that they're trying to solve, and then I'm mostly scanning through the visuals, and then I'm just going towards the end,
Hmm.
like what was the conclusion.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that becomes super important.
Same. The only time I think I actually read word to word in a case study is when I'm writing a case study for mine and I'm taking maybe an inspiration or I'm actually trying to learn a
Yes.
process which they
Yes.
have used which is very different
Yes.
from mine. I think that's the only time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think yeah, that's Saga. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for like making this call, having this call with me.
Thanks for talking about all of this. I think it's been a while for me as well that I haven't talked about case studies and how to write them. What were the mistakes that I made?
Hmm.
What was my process back then? And how I do it now. So I think it's good for me as well.
Cool, cool, cool. Anyway, Sagar, I
Yeah,
think I'll drop off now. But I'm looking forward to having much more collabs with you in the future regarding
for sure,
different
for
things. I
sure.
want to know that strategy that you use for getting into Topper, or maybe even Ticket Tape if it's a little different. So yeah, we'll collab soon then. Bye. After having this insightful conversation with Sagar, I feel like I have all the knowledge in the world to write a really good case study. But having knowledge is one thing, and applying it is a totally different thing. Will I be able to apply it? You'll get to know in the next video. Until then, peace.